Good day to all. Welcome to Extreme Recap. Toward the beginning of the film, we see Martha, a capricious lady, sitting at her condo. She seems to be having a good time for a long time. But at that time, making out with another woman, her boyfriend bursts into the room. He doesn't show any regret when Martha confronts him. Instead, he requests her participation in a trio. Martha clearly rejects, and she parts ways with him without even a second's pause. However, her boyfriend criticizes her for lacking an adventurous spirit. Martha's already negative mood is only made worse by this. She then stomps out of the room and throws something at his head. Mr. Wright, whose real name is Francis, appears elsewhere. He is a former CIA agent who is now a mercenary with very advanced skills that can kill even the most dangerous gangsters. He is currently approaching a woman and claiming to be the headman she hired to kill her husband. After that, he puts on his signature red clown mask, shoots her, and then he tells her that murder is wrong. It is revealed that Francis wears the cloud frequently, as we all know, to make his victims feel at ease as they pass away. Because of this, he also kills the people who hire him. It is possible to get rid of the masterminds, which can end the vicious cycle of hurting other people. A group of assassins is getting ready to trap Francis while he finishes his work inside the hotel. The group is driven by Container, a hired gunman who once worked with Francis in the CIA. However, he decides to stay behind in the surveillance van because he is confident that Francis will defeat the amateur assassins. As he had expected, Francis kills the professional killers one by one, utilizing his extraordinary fighting abilities. He does this without even moving a muscle. Hopper gets a phone call from his boss after the incident, who directs him to team up with a local police detective and act like an FBI agent. Gus Patrick, who has been appointed to catch Francis. In the meantime, Martha and Sophie, her roommate, go out drinking. However, she never stops looking for her boyfriend. She faults herself for him undermining her while Sophie attempts to convince her in any case. The following morning Martha goes with Sophie to the pet store at her place of employment. Our hero young lady, despite warnings that it is ferocious, picks up a cat. But Martha doesn't pay attention, and the cat scratches Sophie. Martha then makes a pit stop on her way home at a convenience store. Additionally, Francis is in the area purchasing supplies. Martha suddenly and haphazardly hits a shelf, scattering a pile of contraceptives. However, Francis quickly catches them, which is surprising given his extraordinary abilities. Martha is awestruck by this and falls in love with him right away. They talk for a while, and Francis likes her quirky personality as well. After that, he asks her out on a date, and the two of them end up spending some time together. Martha interprets Francis's honest discussion of his occupation in the following scene as sarcasm. She believes that jobs like this are only seen in movies. After some time, as the two of them walk through a park, Francis makes the sudden realization that a criminal is nearby. It turns out that his intuition was correct. Thankfully, when we observe a man aiming a sniper at Francis, our hero dances with Martha quickly and avoids each bullet one by one. After the encounter, she is even unaware that they are being attacked. Martha's place is where the couple ends up spending the night together. The following morning Francis asks her to continue their evening date in a note to her. Martha is pleased to make breakfast because of this. Notwithstanding, Sophie is a piece wary about this secret sweetheart. Francis and Martha meet at a bar later that evening. He meets Espinoza there, one of the headmen who earlier left the hotel. He then, at that point, pardons himself and seeks after Espinoza outside. When they are outside the bar, Francis lets the contract killer know that he doesn't have an arrangement on killing anybody. In any case, Espinoza is persistent. So he readies his blade to go after Francis. Francis reacts quickly to every attack, as he always does. He then kills the headman by using the same dagger to pierce his throat at the right time. Meanwhile, Vaughn and Richie Cardigan, half-brothers, who are members of a criminal family and want to hire Francis to kill one of their special targets. The younger brother, Vaughn, is ambitious but lacks talent and intelligence. The two siblings are in conflict with one another continually. Vaughn also really wants to get out of the way. Vaughn convinces a neighborhood hoodlum to help him in recruiting Francis. He wants to rule the local gangster dynasty and take over from his older brother. In essence, His plan is to hire a hitman on Richie's behalf. The contract killer is ideally Francis, who has a background marked by killing the people who enlist him. At home later, Martha comments that she doesn't actually realize Francis' complete name, even subsequent to dating him for a couple of days. The former mercenary responds that he does not share his name with anyone because he despises it. He just has a solitary name, and that is Francis. Martha curiously asks him how he got all the contraceptive pills at the convenience store while they were still talking. Francis then, at that point, flaunts his blade ability while endeavoring to persuade Martha to get them. At first, she freaks out. However, she experiences excitement as she catches the blades. One evening, Francis carries Martha with him to the principal meeting of the headman work. This is because he wants her to believe he is a killer. Afterward, as she holds up in the vehicle, on the bridge, she sees Francis interacting with a man. The latter desires that he kill some individuals. Francis, on the other hand, promptly dons his clown mask and casually kills the man. Martha becomes agitated at the sight of this and comes to the realization that her brand new boyfriend was not making fun of killing people. She asks him to drive her home when she becomes anxious. However, one of Vaughn's tails them to her apartment without their knowledge. She sits in disbelief as Francis drops Martha off at her house. After some time, Gus and Hopper, posing as FBI agents, arrive at her house, where the interviewer describes Francis as a killer with morals. They likewise illuminate her that Francis kills off individuals that utilize him since he complies with an ethical code of his, which is that killing is off base, except if certain individuals merit it. Container then cautions Martha that Francis is an extremely risky person. Francis decides to visit her apartment in the interim. Hopper is prepared for him because he has been following his location. However, Francis suddenly comes at him from behind and drags him inside. After that, he tells the girls that Hopper is not a member of the FBI. Naturally, Martha is uncertain of who to trust, as both the men have recounted her various stories. However, after some reflection, she comes to the conclusion that Francis has always been truthful with her. As a result, she goes with him to the bedroom, where they start having an affair. Nonetheless, their heartfelt second is interfered with when one of Cantainer's folks declares through the radio that they're coming for Francis. This alerts our legend, and he rapidly attempts to leave. However, several members of the Cardigan gang arrive at that exact moment. Steve, one of the assassins, astonishes Francis with his exceptional fighting skills. While attempting to safely get Martha out of the house, he also gives the impression of being a skilled mercenary. Francis repels a group of murderers. At a certain point, he gets gone after by a home run stick, yet he rapidly figures out how to grab it away from the professional killer prior to thumping him oblivious. Even leaping through the stairs, Francis renders the other assassins helpless. He then moves on to killing Steve. Yet, without a second to spare, he stops. He recalls Martha's promise to him that he would no longer kill anyone. Sadly, Steve is able to fire before the slight distraction ends. Francis courageously avoids it with his hand and saves Martha. However, in the process he harms himself. Despite everything, he spares Steve's life, which is unusual for such a well-known assassin. Steve is shocked because Francis is not the same person he used to know. Despite this, he gives him a lot of thought and promises not to stand in their way from now on. After that, Francis and Martha make their way outside, but a larger number of assassins still surround them as they pass through. In addition, Vaughn and his men arrive at the scene in search of Francis. After being attacked once more, the couple takes cover near a water tank to escape. Francis compelled to start shooting and kill one of the professional killers. After that, he uses a psychological trick on them by telling them that if they die today, they won't be able to see their wives and children. Fortunately, the trick works, and the evaluating personnel slowly retreat and leave the premises. Vaughn attacks Francis and Martha when they come out in the open. In any case, Vaughn quickly gives up whenever he understands that he gets no opportunity with a headman like Francis. Additionally, he commends him for his tenacity and exceptional fighting skills. However, to everyone's surprise, this only works as a ploy to divert Francis. The finesse Steve shows up at the scene and strikes from behind, wrecking him. It turns out that all he was really saying was that he wouldn't go after Francis. He is, After all, employed by Vaughn and his men. Following this, Martha is kidnapped by Steve and Vaughn, and they give Francis an address where they can be found as they flee. Francis battles Container, who shows up just after the mobsters leave. But he soon gets away without being noticed. In the following scene, Martha has gone to the Cardigan brothers' house. Francis follows in an effort to intimidate her and smacks her a few times, but she doesn't seem to be bothered. Shortly after Francis enters the house, taking out every one of the professional killers on his way. When he approaches Vaughn, the latter swiftly grabs Martha and gives our hero the order to kill her. Richie, uncovering his injustice to his sibling, Francis, on the other hand, effortlessly saves her and declares that he is finished. He then leaves a firearm among Vaughn and Richie, saying they ought to settle themselves. The brothers run for their guns as soon as Francis leaves the room. Vaughn is successful in snatching it after they wrestle for some time. After that, he kills his half-brother without thinking twice. Yet again meanwhile, as Francis attempts to escape with Martha, he runs into Container and starts hustling with him. In contrast, Martha is kidnapped and threatened with death by a hitman. Yet, shockingly, she easily smacks him away. After a while, thanks to the instruction Francis provided her earlier. Once more, the tenacious Vaughn shows up to exact vengeance, but he also succumbs to Martha's exceptional. Hopper, on the other hand, gains control of the fight and prepares to shoot Francis. But at that time, Steve shows up from behind and kills him. He appears to have switched sides. Hopper, whether he is alive or dead, is worth $5 million, says a grateful Francis once more. Steve starts celebrating when he hears this, and the mercenary couple leaves together. The couple is seen living the best version of their lives in Vietnam 2 months later, at this point in the movie. However, they are unaware that some evil individuals are still following them, most likely to exact vengeance on Francis. Turn on notifications, please subscribe for more videos like this, and like the channel to support it. Thank you very much for watching.